Hello and welcome back to Crypto Saving Experts, where we talk about the latest cryptocurrency news and take a look at the markets so that we all know exactly what is happening. My name is Jess and we do these live streams every single day. Usually it is between 11 or 12 BST time, but we are a little bit delayed today. We've had a busy morning here at Crypto Saving Expert, but we couldn't miss the live stream, so we are just tuning in a little bit later today. We'll be back to the normal times tomorrow. Before we get into today's stream, I did bring a Crypto Saving Expert goodie bag. Here it is. We have the Crypto Saving Expert goodie bags now available for you to win. Well, not win. If you engage with us on Twitter and you want a goodie bag, maybe you will get rewarded and sent one in the post. Also, if you go to that Martini Guys race days up and down the UK every weekend, then you could also pick one of these up as well, and they're pretty cool. We've got the Crypto Saving Expert logo on them, and there's lots of fun stuff inside. We've got some air fresheners. We've got some coffee things, and we've got some notepads with some pens as well. So if you want to win one of these and get sent them in the post, don't forget to go to our Twitter and engage with some posts, and we'll try and send some out to as many people as possible. Let's anyway check in with the price of Bitcoin and see what's going on. James said in the chat, is it 11 a.m? Did I get up early? Slightly delayed today, but we will be back to the normal time tomorrow. Let's take a look at what is going on here. So we have the price of Bitcoin sat at 28,338, up 3% in the last 24 hours. We have Ethereum sat at 1,868. Now, the price of Bitcoin has been incredibly volatile in the last 24 hours, and this is due to a huge amount of news. So we are going to be discussing that news in today's live stream. So make sure to stay tuned till the very, very end. We will go through the latest cryptocurrency news, and then we'll take a look at the Bitcoin price as well and analyze the price of Bitcoin to see what is in store. So first of all, let's get on to the first news article that we have here. Let's set everything up correctly. So we are currently streaming. Here we go. We are talking about the fears of a bank run. So First Republic Bank saw $100 billion being withdrawn from users trying to take back their deposits, and we have seen this spread a huge amount of concern around the banking system. Now, we did see a couple of banks shut down earlier this year, and we saw the Bitcoin price rise very, very quickly as a result of this, because when fears spread out amongst the banks, a lot of people decide to withdraw their cash, and then people are looking to put their cash elsewhere in safer assets. A lot of people turned to Bitcoin, and it kind of showed why we need Bitcoin as well. So Bitcoin investors were also feeling even more bullish on the asset. I know I definitely was anyway. So we can see here that since the Silicon Valley Bank, the US banking system has been teetering. It is as its most vulnerable state since the 2008 financial crisis, as fear and uncertainty spreads through the system. I'm better just talking than trying to read these. Let's quickly take a look at the chat. James said, I need a goodie bag to carry all my crypto bags in. Definitely go over to the Twitter account and engage. And I'll try and get one sent over to a couple of people on this live stream as well. If you send in your Twitter handles, I'll keep an eye on some of them at the end of today's stream and write a couple down, see if we can get some sent out to some of you. Let's take a look at this anyway. So we've seen a lot of fears around First Republic Bank. Basically, how a bank works is they invest their money and earn interest on their money, and then they get to make a profit from your user deposits. So we have banks buying bonds, and these bonds are worth a specific value at the start, and they're worth a specific value at the end. And during that period of time, the value of that bond could drop. So it looks something like this. Over that time period, they also earn an interest on that bond. So it's in the bank's best interest to buy this bond, earn that interest, and not sell that bond until the end of the duration, when that bond has come back to its par value. But what happens here is if a huge amount of people decide to withdraw their funds, they have to find liquid cash. So they have to sell that bond before the duration is up, before it comes back to its par value. So they have to sell that bond for its loss. They have to realize the unrealized losses that they are holding. Now, this is typically how a bank works, and it's seen as a pretty safe method for banks to use to create some income and to create some profits. But when we see bank runs and huge amounts of a huge amount of money trying to be withdrawn from the banks all in one go, it can cause a huge amount of problems, because they have to realize these losses, and then when they take more and more losses, fear spreads and more people try and withdraw their funds, and it's a vicious cycle. And then we see this spread not just on the single bank but across many different banks as well. So this is the fear that has been spread in the markets this year, and it's continuing to spread. And we can see here that the price of the First Republic Bank stock also fell by 50% on the news of this $100 billion worth of withdrawals from their users. So it's just spread a huge amount of fear around the banking system, and therefore people are pumping Bitcoin. People want to look for assets that they can store their value in, and Bitcoin is obviously a very good opportunity. So let's continue with the next article on this same news story. I'm really struggling to speak today. James said, slow down, Jess. Thanks for reminding me. I do speak very, very quickly, not just on these live streams, in every single sentence I say. Everyone I speak to, all of my friends are like, slow down. I didn't understand what you just said. So here's a problem. I am trying to slow down. We can see here, so thanks for reminding me, James. First Republic Bank would have been assassinated weeks ago if it was a crypto bank, says Cameron Winklevoss. So Gemini's co-founder has highlighted the presence of double standards by US regulators in handling the situation at First Republic Bank. And Cameron Winklevoss pointed out that if the bank were directly linked to crypto, it would have been assassinated weeks ago by the same regulators. So what happened earlier this year when in March, 3 banks were shut down, and they were all seen as very cryptocurrency friendly banks in the US. So let's take a look at this anyway. First Republic Bank has exposed the underbelly of what was once considered a stable industry. The response of US regulators in all 3 situations has revealed a double standard when dealing with financial institutions in crisis. According to Cameron Winklevoss, let's get to the point, the slow response by regulators to place First Republic Bank into receivership is evidence of the said double standard. The president also added the reaction would have differed if the bank was linked to crypto, as with Silvergate and Silicon Valley Bank. So we can see here that he has tweeted on Wednesday, First Republic Bank is down another 35% and falling fast. If this was a crypto bank, it would have been assassinated weeks ago. The fact that it hasn't been taken into receivership shows how blatant the double standard is. So we can see the difference between the banks that were shut down earlier this year and what's happening with First Republic Bank. He's saying it shouldn't have been left this long, and we can see the double standard here, that if it was related to cryptocurrency, if it helped cryptocurrency companies, then it would have been different. That's essentially the point that he's been making here. You can draw your own opinions from that. I'm really struggling today to speak. I don't know why. Let's try on with the next article here. See if we can improve this a little bit. Let's get on to the next one. We are going to be talking about, we are first on to the cryptocurrency news. Binance.US terminates $1 billion asset sale deal with Voyager Digital. Now, this was a deal that was going to help make users more whole than if Voyager was just to work on their own. So it is a real shame that this has happened. However, Voyager have put in place steps that they can make to start paying back those users that had their assets held with Voyager Digital. So it's a shame that it's not come through for those Voyager users. But overall, if this is in Binance.US's best interest, then it's definitely something that is beneficial for the whole cryptocurrency industry. We don't want Binance and other big companies to take on more than they can chew. So we need to make sure that everything is running smoothly before they do this. Is obviously a reason they have backed out of this deal. Yes, Voyager users may get less of a percentage of their funds back. However, all in all, it's probably a smart move for Binance.US. So let's move on to the next article here anyway. We have the Bahamas securities regulator seeks to tighten crypto regulation following FTX collapse. Now, this isn't something we've just seen in the Bahamas. We've seen this all over the world. A lot of different countries are trying to regulate cryptocurrency, and a lot quicker than they would have done if FTX did not exist. So we are going to see that continue within the next couple of months. Let's move on to the next one here. We have ARK Invest and 21 Shares makes third bid for spot Bitcoin ETF. And this is something we definitely want. So they've applied to the US SEC to have a spot Bitcoin ETF. So this is a financial vehicle that traditional investors can invest into, and it's tied to the price of Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin moves, the ETF moves. It means that investors can get exposure to Bitcoin while using traditional investment systems. So it means that people that are in the traditional markets don't have to learn about how to store your Bitcoin safely, how to get onto a cryptocurrency exchange. They could just use the methods they already use. So it helps drive adoption. So we can see here that we have first 2 filings rejected by the SEC. So we had one in June 2021 and then we had one in May 2022. And they've said this is because of manipulation and fraud they see in the crypto sector. But now they have applied again. So we can see here the CEO said American investors have been hurt by crypto scams that are primarily international and especially because they aren't available easy regulated options at home. So the firm is excited about the future of crypto and sees the US playing a prominent role in the sector despite regulatory uncertainty. And 21 Shares is keen to provide US investors with a reliable and regulated way to benefit from crypto. At the moment, the absence of a spot Bitcoin ETF in America takes away significant investor protections. This is definitely something we can agree on. Something that I would expect is difficult for the US. The US have made it very difficult for cryptocurrency companies to thrive in the jurisdiction. The regulatory framework is just not clear at all. It's made a lot of different cryptocurrency companies choose to take a step back from the US and look at other jurisdictions as a place to really grow the business. And now we are trying to get a Bitcoin spot ETF. It's not something that I can see in the near future. Unfortunately, it would be great. It would help drive adoption and it would help traditional investors get into the cryptocurrency space. However, the US and the SEC are very against cryptocurrency right now, in my opinion. So let's move on to the next article here and see what else is going on in the world of crypto. We have Mark Zuckerberg say Meta won't lose focus on the Metaverse despite a $3.99 billion loss in Q1 of this year. So this is a huge loss that Meta have taken on. It was a very bold move to change Facebook to Meta in the first place, and I feel like it's pride has got to come into this somewhere. Like, you can't continue to go with this forever if you're making such big losses. They must have very high hopes for what's to come in the future. But it was a very bold move and it was a risk, definitely a risk. So we can see here Meta's Metaverse ambition running at a steep loss. So we saw that in, let's get this right, in the first quarter earnings on Wednesday, the company responsible for its Metaverse development recorded a $3.99 billion loss, higher compared to a $2.96 billion loss in Q1 last year. So it's loss after loss. Last year, the company operated at a total $13.72 billion loss. So you can see that Mark Zuckerberg has said building the metaverse is a long-term project, but the rationale for it remains the same, and we remain committed to it. And that's definitely something that we can see. We understand that these things take a long time. Nothing is profitable straight away. These are huge amounts of losses. And we do know that Zuckerberg has also already made this big commitment to the metaverse by rebranding the company as Meta. So he kind of has to continue down this rabbit hole and hope that something comes of this. These are huge losses that we are discussing here. So Mark Zuckerberg has also said a narrative has developed that we're somehow moving away from focusing on the metaverse vision. So I just want to say up front that that's not accurate. We've been focusing on both AI and the metaverse for years now, and we will continue to focus on both. So they have downsized, and we also have heard from Mark Zuckerberg that they are trying to regain focus on the end goal, and they're kind of getting away from any side tasks right now, trying to focus on making the main goal a success. Leaning down the company is a phrase that I think he used. So we'll see what happens here. It'll be very interesting to see if this comes out on top. He's a very successful man and he's known to create brilliant businesses. But right now, it is looking pretty concerning. Player One says in the chat, man is burning shareholder capital, but their stock prices are up. Yeah, it's a very interesting position right now. We'll have to see how this plays out and whether they can come out with something incredible or whether this is actually a long-term problem that is going to see the end of Meta. It'll be very interesting. They can't continue with these losses forever. Something needs to come very, very soon. Let's take a look at what is next here. We have Binance CEO refutes Bloomberg's report that claims a wealth of $28 billion for the crypto tycoon. So basically, Bloomberg publication said that the CEO was worth more than $28 billion. And CZ said, this is not true. Numbers all wrong, he tweeted on Thursday. I don't have anywhere near as much. Don't know why they do this. And we can also see here that he said, never viewed FTX as a rival. We welcome more well-run exchanges in the space. And then he tweeted the number 4, which stands for ignore FUD, fake news, attacks, etc. So we will see. Oh, there's always something about CZ in the news and about Binance. And he always has to step forward and say, this is not true, this is not true. But we see this over and over again within the cryptocurrency space. I don't know why everyone is so against Binance and CZ. And they can't just let them continue building a brilliant exchange. There's always fear spread around amongst the media in crypto around Binance. Taking a look at the chat, JB said, I get FOMO every minute of every day. I need more Bitcoin. The problem is, JB, you can never have enough Bitcoin, in my opinion. Nothing is financial advice, but I don't think the FOMO ever ends. It's a vicious cycle. When you have more, you want more. Let's take a look at the next article now anyway and see what else is going on in the world of crypto. So we have Ethereum to peak at $2,800 in 2023 and close the year at $2,300 according to an analyst. So they will also warn that there is a risk of Ethereum being centralized after the upgrade that did take place a couple of weeks ago. So the first concern is that it could become more centralized. So finance analysts were optimistic about the future of Ethereum, but not all of the analysts. So we can see here that after the upgrade, they believe the recent upgrade is a slightly bearish event. So let's take a look at what the director has said. We can see here Ethereum still remains the go-to platform for DeFi, but also other networks are picking up. The key issue is the fact that the network is becoming more and more centralized, along with the regulatory uncertainty around staking. Furthermore, an estimated 21% of the panelists believe ETH could end up being centralized post-Shapella. Another 29% think the upgrade will eventually lead to a massive ETH sell-off, and 50% believe that it will gradually increase regulatory scrutiny of Ethereum due to staking. So there are a few concerns there around Ethereum. Now, centralization is a very interesting topic to be had here. There's a lot of people think that every single cryptocurrency is centralized, but things can become more and more decentralized. If 6 people are in control of a network, it's more centralized than if 8 people are in control of a network. So it works in this way, and it's not just a straight centralized or decentralized. It's kind of a scale, and that is something that we need to be aware of. We can see this with other projects as well. I won't name a few of the altcoins there. We'll continue on from this, but there are debates to be had about other altcoins in the top 50 as well. Let's move on to the next article here. We have an article about the phrase sell in May and go away. Now, this is a phrase that's been thrown around on cryptocurrency Twitter a lot within the last couple of days. And this article addresses the question of, does it apply to Bitcoin? I have just remembered, I haven't even said in today's stream, please don't forget to like and subscribe and press the bell notification button so you don't miss the latest cryptocurrency news. We are about to hit 3,000 subscribers. We are on 2,953. We're on a mission to get to 100,000 by the end of the year, because I'd love one of those big silver plaques. They look very, very nice. And Jordan's already said I can put it on the wall behind me, so that is the goal. So please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell notification button on today's video so that we can hit on a mission for that goal. We are currently on 13 likes. We can do better than that. Please don't forget to like if you are enjoying today's stream. Let's take a look at this article anyway. Is the phrase sell in May and go away applicable to Bitcoin? So this is a common phrase within traditional finance and relates to the underperformance of stocks from May to October. But does Bitcoin follow this trend? So we can go through this whole article. We can see that in history, the price of Bitcoin hasn't performed incredibly well. We can see here in 2018, Bitcoin opened at $9,250 and it went down. Let's see, difference from opens, down 28%. In 2019, we gained 55%. In 2020, we gained 25%. In 2021, we lost 25%. And in 2022, we lost 48%. So we can see here, we also have to remember when we're looking at this data, that whether in a bull market or a bear market is a very big factor that we need to consider. If you want to understand this entire article from start to finish, make sure to go to cryptosavingexpert.com and read through this thoroughly. But we do understand that during May to October, it's not a great time for traditional markets. That is something that is kind of accepted for the traditional markets. We can see that it has an effect on Bitcoin. We do know that there is some sort of correlation between Bitcoin and the traditional markets. However, the price of Bitcoin, when it's in a bull market, it soars. Whatever everything else is doing, the price increases when we're in a bull market. Right now, we have been in a bear market for a long period of time. We can see here that in 2018 it was negative, positive, positive, negative, negative, and now we are, in my opinion, coming up to the time where the bull market does start to begin again. I do also believe, in my opinion, for the price of Bitcoin, that we are going to have less excitement in the market for a period of time. Now, that is not something that is widely agreed upon. I know a lot of people are super bullish, a lot of people are super bearish. I just think that the price could actually become quite boring through this period of time, which is not something that I am excited for, but it's an interesting debate to be had of what's going on with Bitcoin. We also have an article here to discuss what happened with the volatility last night with Bitcoin. Then we'll go into the chart and I'll explain that in a little bit more detail. So we can see here that Arkham has distanced itself from the flash crash that we saw with Bitcoin yesterday. And this is because a lot of people accused them as the reason as to why we have this flash crash, because they alerted that there have been transfers from Mt. Gox and the US government, and they alerted users that they could be dumping their Bitcoin. So we can see here that they created 2 alerts for all Bitcoin transactions above $10,000 and labeled them Mt. Gox and US government. So they only alerted a small number of users, but we can see here the tweet Mt. Gox and US government while it's making transactions. That created a huge amount of fear. We know the US government have a huge amount of Bitcoin that they want to dump into the markets, and we also know that Mt. Gox need to liquidate some of they need to sell some of their assets so that they have liquid cash. So these are 2 fears that we have amongst the cryptocurrency industry. The Mt. Gox one has been held over our heads for years, like it's gonna happen, and it's never happened yet. And we also have the US government. I mean, the US government had 4 trenches, I believe. They've already done one. I think it was on the 14th of March. Don't quote me on the date, though. And we did absorb that very, very nicely. The 14th of March actually finished in the green. So it's not necessarily a really awful thing. And also, if they're going to sell it, I'd rather they just dump it on the market and we get on with it, get all the fear over. The fear of these of Mt. Gox and the US government selling their Bitcoin has a bigger effect on the market than if they just sold their Bitcoin, in my opinion. So the fear of them doing this and the fear of these transactions, meaning that they're about to sell their Bitcoin, caused the price of Bitcoin to dump very, very quickly. So let's take a look at the tweet they've put out. They've said that it wasn't them that caused this crash. However, fear spreads like wildfire on cryptocurrency Twitter. We can see that the drop occurred between 7:15 and 8 p.m. and we saw that their alerts were at 7 minutes past 8 and 8 minutes past 8. So it can't have been them. But a lot of people are actually saying that the drop and the flash crash for Bitcoin was because of these alerts that were created. Let's take a look at what happened to Bitcoin anyway before we take a look at what I was just discussing here. We can see Bitcoin was pumping very, very nicely, and this was off the back of the fears around the banking system, with First Republic Bank dropping 50% and having $100 billion being withdrawn from users. So the price was going up very, very nicely. People were looking for alternative assets. People were looking for Bitcoin. And then all of a sudden, all of these fears came about the US government and about Mt. Gox selling Bitcoin. And the price dumped all the way down. Let's get this right. All the way down to 27,244. So what percentage of a drop was that? Let's take a look at this. We were down 9.4%. Now that is a huge decline. And then we can see that these remarks have all been erased essentially, and the price has recovered pretty nicely. A huge drop, a nice buy the dip opportunity actually. I wonder if anybody in the chat got advantage of that. Let me know if you did. Lee said Jess is pumping Bitcoin right now. Perfect. That is exactly what we want to see. Bitcoin is on the rise. If we take a look at the 15-minute chart, volatility entering the markets once again. I just said it was going to get boring, but it's getting volatile right now. In my opinion, let's zoom out a little bit and see what's going to happen in the long term for Bitcoin. In my opinion, this is purely my opinion, by the way. Nothing is financial advice here. I have a very strange opinion, I think. My opinion isn't something that is broadly accepted on cryptocurrency Twitter just yet. But my opinion is that we're not actually going to see an all-time high this year, and that we could see a pretty boring 6 months right now. Now, I do believe that the price of Bitcoin will increase from now till next April, because we are in the 12 months prior to the Bitcoin halving, and typically the price of Bitcoin does increase. In history, the price of Bitcoin has increased in the 12 months prior to the halving. The halving is meant to be April 2024. every 210,000 blocks, which is around every 4 years. So in that, looking at the history of that, it looks like Bitcoin does always increase in those 12 months prior, so that's making me feel quite bullish. However, I'm not as bullish as some people. We usually only see a new all-time high after the Bitcoin halving, around a couple of months after that Bitcoin halving, so I'm not expecting to see an all-time high this year. For that reason, when we take a look at the price of Bitcoin, we're also already at $30,000. Our all-time high is currently just below $70,000. I think we need to have a cool-off period. We need to see some sideways action. The price could get pretty boring. Otherwise, we're going to make an all-time high too quickly, and I just personally don't see that happening just yet. But obviously, that is all my own opinion. And maybe completely wrong, who knows? Only time will tell, but that is what my opinions are anyway. Let's take a look at the RSI and the MACD to see what is going on here. On the daily chart, we can take a look at the bigger time frames. For Bitcoin this morning, we can see here that the RSI is pretty neutral. The MACD is looking like the bearish momentum is about to flip. It's weakening by the day anyway, and it could tick into bullish momentum, which would be pretty nice. Taking a look at the 4-hour chart, bullish momentum is increasing, and the RSI is looking pretty neutral into the smaller time frames. Let's go on to the 1-hour time frame. Pretty neutral, both of them pretty neutral. If anything, the MACD is just ticking into bullish momentum. We could see a nice move to the upside. But all in all, that is all we have for today's video. So thank you very much for tuning in with us. As always, usually our live streams are between 11 and 12 a.m. BST time. Today's is a little bit late, but we'll be back to the normal schedule from tomorrow. So I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all back here tomorrow. Goodbye. Thank you.